The Polish army used a bear in World War II. We'll tell you all about it on a brand new episode of The Internet Says It's True. Hey, welcome back to The Internet Says It's True. Every week here, we learn something that sounds made up but is really true. This is part of the WCBE podcast experience and available on all podcast platforms, as well as the NPR app and website. My name's Michael Kent. This is episode 209. Thank you so much for returning to the show again this week. It's been another busy week for me performing. I was in New York, then Indiana, then Philly, then Springfield, Ohio, then Cleveland. Amazing show in Cleveland. I wanted to mention that if you ever want to see video of these shows, you can do that on Patreon. I upload unedited video of all my performances on Patreon for gold members, but even if you join at bronze or silver, my Tizziters get tons of bonuses like early episodes, ad-free, and the video interviews with guests. Not to mention stickers and whatnot. So don't forget to join up there. It's patreon.com/Michael Kent.
I am once again asking for your financial support.
Also, please don't forget to rate and review the podcast on the Apple Podcasts app. Seems to be the only one that really makes a difference when it comes to ratings and reviews. But leave a 5-star review and also type in a few words. They don't have to make sense. But when you do that, it fools the algorithm into thinking, hey, this is a podcast that people need to be listening to. Which, by the way, it is. There's no fooling. Anyway, go do that.
I was thinking of giving this place 5 stars.
And finally, don't forget we have t-shirts and mugs for sale on the website. As a Tizziter, you get a discount. You can pick those up at theinternetsaysitstrue.com, click merch, and you'll find those. Today's episode has been on my list forever. It's about a soldier bear in World War II. That's right, I said bear. But before we talk about that, let's talk about other soldier animals in the war. In the chaos and carnage of World War II, heroes emerged from the most unexpected places, not just from the ranks of soldiers, but from the animal kingdom. Dogs, pigeons, horses, and even bears were enlisted to serve in the world's greatest conflict, carrying messages, transporting supplies, and boosting the morale of weary troops. We've done a fair amount of World War II stories on this show, but never one about the animals. These brave creatures performed astonishing acts of courage, sometimes in the face of gunfire, and their loyalty was unwavering. From the fearless war dog who charged enemy lines to the homing pigeons that saved lives with their speed, animals proved to be more than companions. They were indispensable warriors. In the dense jungles of Burma, elephants proved invaluable to both British and Japanese forces during World War II. Their immense strength and size allowed them to carry heavy artillery, construct bridges, and transport supplies through terrain that was basically impassable for trucks or tanks. Working tirelessly along the soldiers, these gentle giants played a crucial role in the brutal Burma campaign, where human lives depended on their unwavering service. Mules were the unsung heroes of the Italian campaign, often carrying artillery, food, and medical supplies across the Apennine Mountains. The British Army, in particular, relied heavily on mules as they could traverse areas where vehicles would get stuck. And while their role was less glamorous than that of combat troops, the survival of entire divisions depended on these animals, which braved enemy fire in grueling conditions. And there are also stories of individual animals. We've talked about Unsinkable Sam. We talked about that during the Arthur John Priest Unsinkable Man episode. Originally a ship's cat on the German battleship Bismarck, Sam survived its sinking on May 1941 and then was rescued by British sailors. After the Bismarck, Sam survived the sinking of 2 more ships, the HMS Cossack and the HMS Ark Royal, each time being found alive and rescued. Following these incredible escapes, Sam retired to a peaceful life in the UK. He became a symbol of survival and resilience during World War II. But he wasn't the only cat. Simon, the ship's cat aboard the British Royal Navy ship HMS Amethyst, became a hero during the Chinese Civil War's Yangtze incident in 1949. After surviving injuries from a shell blast that killed several of his crewmates, Simon continued his duty, killing rats and protecting the ship's food supply. For his bravery and morale-boosting presence, Simon was awarded the Dickin Medal, the only cat to receive such an honor during or after the war. Even birds fought in the war. In 1943, G.I. Joe, a homing pigeon with the U.S. Army Pigeon Service, flew 20 miles in 20 minutes to deliver a message that saved 1,000 British soldiers in Italy from being bombed by their own planes. The message was sent just in time to halt an airstrike that had already been ordered. G.I. Joe's lightning-fast flight earned him the prestigious Dickin Medal. By the way, the Dickin Medal is the animal equivalent of the Victoria Cross, proving that even the smallest creatures could turn the tide of battle. And as far as dogs, there were many dogs that helped with boosting morale. Chips was a German Shepherd Collie Siberian Husky mix, which was part of the U.S. Army's 3rd Infantry. So, in 1943, during the invasion of Sicily, he single-handedly charged a hidden enemy machine gun nest, forcing its crew to surrender despite being wounded in the fray. For this, they awarded him the Silver Star and Purple Heart. Now, this was sadly later revoked because they decided animals were no longer eligible. But Chip's bravery remains a testament to the critical role dogs played in saving countless lives. Smokey was a tiny Yorkshire Terrier. Now, I have a Yorkie, and I can testify to their ferocity. Little Smokey was found by American soldiers in the jungle of New Guinea. This was 1944, and he basically became a morale booster and a military asset. Only 4 pounds, this dog crawled through 70 feet of piping to help lay a crucial communication wire. This saved the troops during days of dangerous work. Then Smokey visited wounded soldiers, basically comforting them in ways only a devoted animal could, and in my opinion, only a Yorkie could, becoming one of the most famous therapy dogs of the war. So we've talked about elephants, cats, dogs, mules, even birds. But today's story revolves around an incredibly unlikely animal, a bear. We'll talk about it after a quick break. If you love listening to this podcast every week and you want to show your support, that would mean a great deal to me. You can do that by becoming a Patreon member. We've got members at all levels, whether you want to pledge $1 a month or $10 a month. Just think about the value that you receive from this show. And if you like the histories and the stories that you learn about or the jokes that you hear, and if you think that they're worth it, consider signing up. For that, you get every episode ad-free and a week early, access to bonuses like the unedited videos of the guest appearances, and 20% off all merchandise. You can sign up today at patreon.com/Michael Kent. That's patreon.com/Michael Kent. There was a time that humans used 100% organic products as healing balms and moisturizers for their skin. Well, I've partnered with an awesome company that wants to get back to those times. Fatco sells organic and responsibly made tallow-based skincare products. For centuries, humans used tallow in skin moisturizers and healing balms, but unfortunately, the topical application of these fats seemed to stop around the same time that animal fats stopped being considered part of a healthy diet. A lot of modern skincare products do more harm than good by stripping your skin of its natural oils. Let's change that. You can try them out now at fatco.com and get 15% off your order by using my promo code INTERNET. Go to theinternetsaysitstrue.com/deals for the link. The world of medication-based weight loss is taking off and can be really scary if you don't know where to turn to for the right information. We've got a great solution for you as a new supporter of the show. Mochi Health is an incredible holistic telehealth platform. It basically connects you with board-certified doctors and dietitians, and they'll help you determine the best course of treatment to reach your health goals with medication delivered to your door. And we're talking about science-backed medications like Ozempic that you've heard of. They make it affordable, personalized, and it doesn't matter what insurance coverage you have, they'll help you find a solution that fits your lifestyle and your weight loss goals. Again, these are FDA-approved GLP-1 medications, and it just couldn't be easier. I want you to go check out joinmochi.com. That's JOINMOCHI.com. And because you listen to this podcast, you get $40 off. Just use promo code INTERNET. Again, that's joinmochi.com, promo code INTERNET, or use the deals link in the show notes. The story of the Second Polish Corps is interesting by itself, even without learning about today's story about a bear. The Polish army was basically created inside Soviet territory when thousands upon thousands of Polish prisoners were finally released from Soviet gulags in 1941. Between then and 1943, this new army was formed and fought for the Allies. In 1942, as these thousands of new troops were traveling to Tehran, Iran, some of these Polish soldiers encountered a young Iranian boy who had discovered a bear cub. He said the bear's mother had been shot by hunters and he had rescued the cub. A Polish civilian refugee who was traveling with the troops convinced them to purchase the cub from the boy, and for a while after that, that young refugee, Irina Bokiewicz, took care of the cub and raised it in a refugee camp there in Iran. After a few years, this bear somehow found its way to being the official mascot of the 2nd Transport Company, which later became the 22nd Artillery Supply Company. The bear was given the name Wojtek, which is a play on the Slavic word Wojciech, which means happy warrior. Wojtek here is spelled Wojtek, just in case you're confused by that. Now, after being fed fruit, honey, syrup, and marmalade, the bear was fed beer, which was his favorite. Now, this obviously gave a kick to the soldiers, who also took to feeding Wojtek milk from an emptied-out vodka bottle. He also took to cigarettes, but it turned out he was more interested in eating them than smoking. In the morning, they'd give the bear coffee, and at night, the soldiers would take turns cuddling up to Wojtek to stay warm. Yes, they cuddled with the bear. He was that friendly. He was so friendly, in fact, that the soldiers would even play wrestle with the bear. Pretty amazing. Wojtek the bear stayed with the 22nd Artillery Supply Company as they left Iran, traveled through Syria, and ended up in Egypt, then later fought alongside the British Army in the Italian campaign. The only problem with this was that to get to Italy, the British transport ship proved to be a problem. Mascots and animals in general were forbidden from riding on the ship. To address this, the Polish army officially drafted Wojtek. He was now a private in the Polish army. They assigned Henryk Zakrowicz and Lew Wazowski as his handlers, and it was just about as official as you could be. He had a serial number, a playbook, and rank, just like the other Polish soldiers. In Italy, Germany fought the Allies at Monte Cassino from January 7th all the way to May 18th, 1944. And on May 17th and 18th, at the end of the battle, the 2nd Polish Corps was the group that helped to launch the final bombardment on the German position. When Allied flags were raised over the ruins, it was the Polish flag that stood next to the British Union Jack. In this battle, Wojtek the soldier bear became famous. At this point, keep in mind, he was still very much a cub, but was quickly growing. He weighed somewhere around 200 pounds when they got him, but by the Battle of Monte Cassino, he was around 485 pounds. That's the bear they were cuddling with and wrestling with. He had watched the Polish soldiers and was pretty good at mimicking their actions, and one of these actions that proved valuable during the battle was carrying crates of ammo. The bear had seen men carrying these ammo crates, which weighed over 100 pounds of 25-pound artillery shells, and would do the same. They'd point the bear in the right direction, and Wojtek would carry the ammo crates to soldiers in need, and never dropped a single crate. It would take multiple men to carry these things, but for Wojtek, it was no problem. British soldiers even confirmed these reports of a bear walking on 2 feet, calmly carrying ammo to soldiers during the battle. The Allies went on to win in Monte Cassino, despite losing more than twice the amount of men as the Germans. Because of his heroism during the battle, Wojtek was promoted from private to corporal. After Monte Cassino, the 22nd Artillery Company was sent to Scotland, and the bear went with them. But when they were demobilized in November of 1947, no one knew what to do with this bear. In Scotland, he had become a very popular member of the military. Civilians were infatuated with the bear and would come to visit often. Poland wanted the bear to be taken back there after the war, but Edinburgh fought to keep him there, and that's how Wojtek's retirement was carried out at the Edinburgh Zoo. He lived in the zoo, and the rest of his life he would even seem to respond when Polish tourists would speak to him in Polish. He was frequently featured on UK television, which made him even more popular. When former army mates of him would come to the zoo to visit, they'd toss him cigarettes to eat, which he still loved. In 1963, Wojtek the bear finally passed away. He weighed 1,100 pounds and had lived to the age of 21. There are multiple statues and commemorations to Wojtek. The most popular stands in Edinburgh's West Prince Street Garden, where the bear is depicted carrying an artillery shell on 2 legs. But he's been memorialized in London, Poland, and at the site of the Battle of Monte Cassino in Italy. The internet says it's true. It's time for Yap Yap with me and a friend. Today, I am calling Harrison Greenbaum. Harrison has been on the show before. Get this, he's the very first comedian to ever headline a Cirque du Soleil show, and that was Matt Apple in Las Vegas. But he's also been featured on Last Comic Standing, America's Got Talent, Nat Geo's Brain Games, and Comedy Central. He's also an accomplished magician, but today he is here as a podcast guest. What's going on, Harrison?
How you doing? I mean, so much has happened since last time I was on the podcast. I think last time I was on it, I was living in New York, and now that I'm back on it, I'm also living in New York.
Yeah, but not continuously. There was that whole Las Vegas thing in between.
Yeah, exactly.
You were there for a while doing this crazy Cirque du Soleil show that you don't think of stand-up comedy being a Cirque du Soleil thing, but that's what they did.
Yeah, it was a New York-themed Cirque du Soleil show, and so I think they figured if you really want to be authentic to the New York experience, instead of having a clown, you're better off with like a stand-up comedian, because that sounds and feels more like, New York is so famous for its comedy scene. So that was the idea, was to have this sort of stand-up comedy component. And I got a call on a Saturday night. Literally, I was flying back into New York for a gig. I get a call saying, hey, can you be on a plane tomorrow morning? We need you in the show Sunday night, because they needed me to fill for something. And so I thought I was just coming in for one day. The show is basically in previews. It hadn't even opened yet. And that went well enough that they said, yeah, stick around. We have another show, another couple of shows. And so I thought that maybe be 2 or 3. And then they, you know what? We have shows all through the end of the week. You might as well do all of the shows. And I was like, I do have to get home eventually. I can't just stay here forever. They kidnapped me. And by the end of that Saturday, the end of the week, I flew back to New York to gather some stuff, because they were offering me a year and a half to headline the show, which was crazy.
That's awesome. If it pays,
there's only been 2 performers that have ever been sort of named headliners of a Cirque show, me and Chris Angel. So I'm sure he's thrilled about that.
2 shows equally as funny for very different reasons.
Yeah, exactly.
We won't get started on Chris Angel, because this podcast isn't about that, and that we could go an hour of just me hearing your Chris Angel stories, of which Harrison has many.
No.
And,
what are you talking about?
At least several. And
we're besties.
Yes, besties in court. I have been, so I'm doing this new segment of the show, and this is new just to this season, where instead of just me going straight into my surprise topic, I ask guests to give me a fact that they think that maybe I haven't heard about, and I'll use the honor system here. But can you tell me a true fact that you think there's little chance I've heard before?
Do you know about, and I want to make sure I get my facts correct here, but do you know about John Perroy Mitchell? Have you heard of this man?
Doesn't sound, what's the middle name?
JPM, as I call him.
Perroy?
He is JPM. He is the boy mayor of New York. No. He was elected mayor when he was only 34 years old.
Okay.
The youngest ever mayor of New York City. Very impressive. And then after he left office, World War I started. So he joined the Air Force, which was, the planes weren't that advanced, but they had a bit of an Air Force in World War I. And he thought he was being pretty cool, so he did a little flip in the plane. He did not have a seatbelt on. Those are the planes, like the biplane. He fell out of the plane.
Oh my God.
He's the first and only person to die by falling out of a plane.
Oh my, what?
The boy mayor of New York fell out of a damn plane.
That is fantastic, and maybe a future episode. That would be a perfect.
You never heard
episode.
of this man?
This is why I added this segment, so I have more content creation, make other people do the work for me. It's really that's a great story, and we've done World War I stories.
I love these guys. I have in my first special, which is coming out soon. I have a bit about Lightning Roy Sullivan.
I did one of my first episodes was about Lightning Roy. And,
he's incredible. I have a whole.
A crazy. I love it. I love these stories about people who otherwise may have been famous for good reasons, but instead do really stupid stuff and become famous for dumb reasons.
Yeah, so JPM, I would love to write a joke about this guy. Fell out of a plane and still potentially a better mayor than our current mayor.
That's true. True. That's amazing. Well, listen, you're never going to have a New York mayor again that goes and fights in a war. That's never going to happen again. These are things that any politician now is not going to go after their politics career and go go back to war. That's never going to happen. Now they have to do pretend war before they run for politics. So they'll get these cushy, little services just so they can say they did it, and then they'll go into politics. But that's pretty great, man. I'm gonna put that on my list, write it down.
And one of the best details is that at his funeral, because he had died technically in military service, he fell out of the plane in America, but
wait,
they did a flyover.
He didn't even make it to France.
No, this was training.
I missed that part. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Oh no.
He was training. He's like, oh, let me do a little flippy. Dead.
No.
But he had, because it was a military burial, they did a flyover with 20 biplanes. And
isn't that just rubbing salt in the wound to his family?
That's what I'm saying. They should have at least had one. They all remember to put their seatbelts on.
Yeah. Well, maybe, he could be responsible for them inventing seatbelts for airplanes. Maybe they just didn't even think about it.
But you don't need them anymore. There's a ceiling now to the plane.
Most of them have ceilings. Yes.
Most of them have a roof.
Yes. He invented the need for plane roofs.
Yeah, they're like, nobody's that stupid to flip the plane over without being seatbelted in, and then bloop, done.
I feel like even modern biplanes still have the open cockpit. Maybe
True,
I'm wrong.
That is true.
The only time I ever see them was when I'm at the beach and they have the touristy ones that you can pay $200 to go up for 15 minutes in a biplane. They always
it's very trendy to be a biplane. They go both ways.
Oh, wait, I got a button for that. Okay. Anyway, let's get into our topic, man. For this question, we're going to play for a joke. So if you get it wrong, you got to tell me a street joke. If you get it right, I will tell you a joke. Here is the question. In 1944, a soldier who fought with the Polish army, a soldier named Wojtek, earned a promotion to the rank of corporal for his actions in the Battle of Monte Cassino. Why was this unusual? A. Wojtek was a German soldier who defected. B. Wojtek was born blind. Or C. Wojtek was a brown bear.
My guess before you said any of the choices was that he's a military dog.
Okay.
Especially since he only has one name. A blind military guy, I don't know how effective that is unless he has very good hearing, and that's useful for him. And the first one you said was that
was a German soldier who defected.
I don't know. I don't know, but I think it's a bear.
You think it's a bear? The answer, Wojtek was a brown bear. That
Yes!
is correct. Yeah. So basically, they just found this bear. It had been orphaned,
As you do.
and it was going to be a mascot like the dogs and stuff. But Wojtek actually became important to this group, this Polish group of soldiers, because he would carry ammunition. They taught him how to do all this stuff. They in the winter months, these soldiers would take turns actually cuddling the bear for warmth. So apparently it was a domesticated.
Until he sided with the Germans and then
Just
killed everybody.
ate them. Yeah, isn't that nuts? He actually was. So they after the, well, I don't want to get too ahead of myself here, but there is a statue to this this wonderful, wonderful bear, Wojtek, spelled W-O-J.
Why did the bear stick around? It wasn't it scared by all the explosions?
They probably
it's a bear. It doesn't have a horse in this race. Do you know what I mean? Why does the bear care?
No, yeah, the horse was in a different unit.
Exactly.
Yeah, I assume that just they fed this bear enough that it just decided that if I stick around where the loud things are, they'll keep feeding me. But I guess also they fed this thing beer and it ended up loving beer. It says that they fed the thing milk out of a vodka bottle and beer and cigarettes, but it ate the cigarettes. So I don't know. I mean, lots of vices with this bear.
Yeah, that sounds real safe to keep around your camp, is a drunk bear.
A drunk bear looking for your cigarettes.
Did he wear a shirt and no pants like Winnie the Pooh? That always freaked me out.
That would have been the cap to the story. Maybe just like a Polish army helmet, and then that's all. No, I mean,
his name was Winnie, and they're like, and that was the inspiration for our childhood tale.
Nobody knew the Polish army. Yeah, what's really interesting is they also said
it was Winnie the Pole, but then they're like, that doesn't sound right. Winnie the Pooh. Let's say Pooh.
Yeah,
Pooh's better.
That's good. I guess this thing wrestled the soldiers when they were bored. for fun, and it didn't kill
I
them or
don't
eat
know.
them.
I don't think he thought it was fun. I think he was fighting for his life.
Who knows what the bear thought? This story is being told by humans. The bears have a completely different way to tell this story. The Syrian Brown Bears, as he was. So I owe you a joke. A very devout cartographer lost his favorite Bible while he was mapping the terrain way out in the backcountry. 3 weeks later, a huge bear walked up to him carrying the Bible in its mouth. The cartographer couldn't believe his eyes. He gently took the precious book out of the bear's mouth, raised his eyes heavenward, and exclaimed, "It's a miracle!" "Not really," said the bear. "Your name is written inside the cover." I got a groan for that one. Really stupid joke. I try to find jokes that fit the subject matter of the show, and that really cuts down on the quality of the jokes.
What's funny is that joke might have been funnier because had we not known that some of these bears can just fight in the military.
That's true. Yeah, if we were
not
back
surprising
to our
that this bear is delivering Bibles. To be honest,
yeah, of
it
course
feels
he can
like
speak English.
Standard
and read.
operating procedure at this point.
Right. He's got a battlefield commission. This is a corporal in the army. Why wouldn't he be able to read? So for the next question, we're going to play for this pencil that I was going to give away at the last episode we did that was new was about pencils. And I found this one on my desk. It says, "Because adulting." And I don't want this pencil. And so it's going to be a gift to you if you get this right.
Okay.
We spare no expense on this show. Wojtek the soldier bear has been memorialized with a bronze sculpture in Edinburgh, Scotland. Where is the largest bronze bear sculpture in the world? Is it A, in Moscow at the north end of the Kremlin, B, outside Reykjavik's cruise ship terminal in Iceland, or C, at a Cabela's in Michigan?
These are all very good options. My gut was originally, it's got to be Russia. Russia loves the bears. We're outside of a gay bar where they also love the bears.
Yeah.
But then you said this cruise thing that seems so damn specific, Michael. That
now
if
keep
you
in
came
mind,
up with
I've been
that
doing
one,
this show for 4. I'm really good at writing questions now, so don't go by that. They could.
That one just feels. How did you pull that out of your ass? Is a cruise terminal in Iceland? I have to go with it, even if it's wrong. I have to go with it.
The answer, believe it or not, a Cabela's in Michigan. Largest. Here, I'll tell you exactly my thought process.
I've been to a Cabela's. I've been to these things.
Yeah, they're insane. The Reykjavik cruise ship terminal came from me thinking, what kind of bears are there? Polar bears. Where would there be polar bears? Antarctic? No, I don't know any cities there. Iceland, Reykjavik. That was my thought process on getting to a cruise ship terminal in Reykjavik.
I like that you know how to pronounce that city, but then you said Edinburgh.
What is it? I'm sorry. Edinburgh?
Well, no. I think that the Scottish people are always like, it's Edinburgh. Like they always have that
Edinburgh.
weird.
You're right. Edinburgh.
Yeah, they have a weird.
Reykjavik. Yeah, I'm sure
Cabela's is fun. It's like Disneyland if you wanted to murder all of the cute animals.
Cabela's, it really is. I mean, you walk in, and depending on, there are different sizes, and some of them have an entire room full of like trophy deer heads where you walk through and you can read like where they were killed. And some of them have a giant aquarium in the middle. This one in Dundee, Michigan, I have been to. And that's the only reason I knew this and thought of it, because I've always been very I've never really believed it when it says that this is the largest bear sculpture in the world. I've never believed that. And then so when I was doing this, I Googled it, and it sure as shit is. It's the largest bear bronze sculpture. I think that's because there's a bigger bear sculpture in Denver at the convention center, the big blue bear that leans against the building. There's also a giant wooden one somewhere. But yeah, the one in Cabela's in Dundee, Michigan. It's two bears fighting. So yeah, you get some good jerky at the Cabela's. That's where if you need jerky, some Carhartt gear, and ammunition, all in the same trip. Cabela's.
How big are we talking? How big is this bear statue?
They're probably 20 feet tall, I would say.
Wow.
20-ish. They're big, but they're also on like a pedestal, so it's hard to tell. But yeah, it's out front of the store, and it's also like, you're next, like that's in next to boats that they're selling. So everything's kind of big out there. It doesn't feel like a real store. So,
according to Google, there's also a statue of the bear and strawberry tree in Madrid that might be larger.
ooh, we can put these up. Take that, Michigan.
Take that, Michigan, Cabela's.
Michigan does not recognize Spain as in competition with them. If it ain't in America, it don't count, is what we're saying. Dundee, Michigan. Yeah, that's on my way. If I'm driving to pretty much anywhere in Michigan, I have to drive by this Cabela's. That's how I know about it.
So you've seen this in person?
Oh, yeah. I've been to that Cabela's. Absolutely. That's probably the first Cabela's I ever went to. And now I think I've been to 3, maybe 4.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm like
I have been to a Cabela's. My wife is from Nebraska.
Yeah.
And I visit Omaha, Nebraska. I believe there's a Cabela's in Omaha.
For the next question, we're going to play for a sticker. They're 3 inches, they're square, and they're sticky, and you can have as many as you want, whether you get it right or wrong, because I'm getting rid of them all, because they're from Sticker Mule, who are fascists, and not playing that game anymore, so we're going to throw them all away.
Fair.
I'm going to do the thing that, like, Republicans always do, where they buy, like, a $300 grill and then, like, blow it up because the grill CEO said something nice about Harris. I like
that they run out to buy the product so they can destroy it. And it's like, you're helping the business.
They
right?
do it all the time. Yeah, they did it with, I think they did it with Yeti, and they did it with
Bud Light. Kid Rock shotgunned a bunch of Bud Light literally with a shotgun. But he had to purchase it first.
Yeah, so that's what we're doing with these stickers. I've already purchased them. Now I'm going to get rid of them all so that I can buy stickers from a non-fascist company.
Nice.
Which would be great. So the Syrian Brown Bear, this is the type of bear in our story. It's incredibly, incredibly rare, possibly completely absent from its namesake country of Syria. How many total Syrian brown bears are there thought to be left in the wild? Is it A, 150, B, 1,500, or C, 15?
Ooh. So has the Syrian bear ever been in Syria? Why is it called a Syrian bear?
Yes, it's originated in that region, but they aren't there anymore. They're pretty much just in, like, Asian countries now.
I can't imagine what could possibly be going on in Syria that would make the bears want to leave.
Right.
It's been pretty rough in Syria.
They needed more like Wojtek that didn't mind the loud noises.
That's what I'm saying. If that bear is so willing to put up with explosions, and maybe it could live through the Civil War.
Seriously.
Ooh, I'm going to say 15. I think there's only 15 of these things left. Especially since they're constantly serving in war.
Right. Not a long lifespan for a Syrian bear.
They're getting drunk. They're eating cigarettes. You know how many bears survive eating cigarettes? Not more than 15.
One. His name was Wojtek. The answer is 150.
What?
So, yeah, that's what they think. Now, there are only around 150 Syrian brown bears left in the wild, though precise numbers are hard to verify due to the remote and sometimes politically unstable regions they inhabit.
Oh, so then I could be right. This question is bullshit.
Most of my questions are bullshit.
Some rando said, I bet it's about 150.
Harrison,
and now we're beholden to his answer?
Is the internet says it's true, not it's definitely true. I will say the subject matter
Michael,
on the show
I'm
is
thinking
always
of a number. Is it A, 15, B, 27, or C, just the picture of a duck? Which they're all true or not true.
B, 57 is the correct answer, right? No, this is what not just Google, but Google's little AI thing, which very well could be bullshit.
Oh God, that's like, we're just going steps down.
Yeah, it's not a Wikipedia article; it's someone relaying a Wikipedia article to you from memory. That's the level of accuracy.
Who's then relaying it.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is true. It is a very what's the word? It's a very endangered type of bear. Hardly any left, and they think there's maybe a few hundred. That's what we found. But
I feel worse if there's only 15. I'm just telling you.
There could be 15.
Maybe that's the number we should be spreading around.
We don't know. Yeah, if we say 15, will people care and start, fighting for the plight of the Syrian brown bear? We know that in Syria, that could be the problem. There might be 15 in Syria. So,
there we go. I thought you said there were 0.
The good news, that's what they think, but they don't know. The good news is that I started the question by saying you could win a sticker either way. So
Great.
there's no loss there. It counts as a win. Question 4, we're going to play for a question that never worked. So like maybe you wrote a joke that never worked. So maybe you wrote a joke for your set sometime and it just never flew and you kept trying and it never flew. Or maybe you tried it once.
Okay.
How?
That's what the audience wants is material that doesn't work.
Tell me, I think they love the pulling back of the curtain to say like, what's the process? And because they all ask you that, like, have you ever, well, maybe, I know they ask about magic. Have you ever screwed up a magic trick on stage? That's the thing that a lot of people ask, but I don't know so much about the comedy scene. Like if you're doing stand-up, if people ask things like, have you ever told a joke that just no one laughed at? You know, is that something that anyone's ever asked you?
Oh yeah, people. Yeah, I think people know that's. Yeah, I think Jerry Seinfeld has the quote, and I'm paraphrasing this, so I apologize if I'm butchering it. But something about like if you're nailing 10 out of 10 sets, you're not trying enough new material, and something like that. You do always have to constantly take chances.
I
risks.
have heard you say that quote about him.
Yeah, you got to break stuff. You got to.
Yeah.
So I'm always constantly trying new stuff, and it's impossible to have 100% batting average. But yeah, that's the beauty of stand-up is that you honestly don't know if a joke works until you do it in front of an audience.
Sure.
There's no way to know until the audience laughs at it. So you have to put it in front of them. And sometimes, the audience is like, that's not for us.
and one audience probably isn't enough to find that out either, right? Like, it might just be a weird night, like a weird group.
100%.
Especially, I imagine,
but that's
in
the
Las
joy
Vegas,
for me.
Right? Yeah, you don't know. It becomes this like science experiment, right? Where like it might be you, it might be the way you said it, and also it might be the order of the words in the sentence. It could be
one word,
anything,
and that's why I do so many shows. I mean, I actually just hit my 10,000 shows since moving to New York, which is crazy. But the reason I do so many is just because it's changing one word, and then I went to the next venue and I go, ooh, let me say this instead of that. Maybe that's funnier. Ooh, let me go to here and try this. And so that process is really exciting.
Absolutely. I'll share one with you, regardless when we're done with this question. So how did Polish?
I've been like quickly scrolling through I have my joke notebook on my computer.
Oh, no worries. Yeah.
So I've been trying to find jokes that I can't. I'm literally being reminded of them as I go through it, going, I typed that in.
We were talking last week on the show, or a couple weeks ago on the show about like, when you have those jokes that you either write on your phone in the notes app or like on a notepad and you have no idea what they meant, where it's just like maybe a few words. And you're like, I'll understand that a year from now when I look at this. And there's just nothing. It's like Applebee, sauce. What does that mean? Here's your question. How did Polish jokes become so popular? Like jokes about Polish people. I'm
not saying Polish people are stupid. I am saying that they brought a bear to a war.
They did. Yeah. So one of these
is actually slept with a drunk bear.
They did sleep with a drunk bear who had been eating cigarettes.
Maybe not the most ideal military minds.
And probably the worst breath ever, if we're talking about bedside manners.
Sure.
The reason Polish jokes became so popular was anti-Polish sentiment in Germany, which was later spread by the Nazis. B, they were started by Leonid Utasov, a Russian comedian in the 1960s. Or C, they go back to the Congress of Vienna in 1813, possibly started by Napoleon.
The Congress of Vienna?
Yeah, 1813. Yeah. Possibly started by Napoleon.
I'm trying to think about the Polak joke, so to speak. That's a good. I don't think it's the second one you said. That seems too contemporary, and
1960s.
That feels a little weird. I'm leaning towards number one. If it's the Napoleon thing, I just don't know enough about what happened at the Congress of Vienna. Did the Polish make a bad vote? So I'll go with let's go with one.
The answer is number one, anti-Polish sentiment in Germany. So
yes that I got it right, not yes that there was anti-Polish sentiment or that the Nazis were involved.
Yeah. Yeah. So like
I'm not happy about the story. I'm happy that I got it correct.
Okay.
To be clear.
For those listening, Harrison is not pro-Nazi.
Nope. I don't own any sticker companies. Don't come after me.
Now, the Polish, during the time, a lot of these soldiers came from the Russian or the Soviet gulags. And then when the war started, they were released from the gulags and allowed to form an army to fight against the Germans. But there is anti-Polish sentiment in Germany before the Nazis. The Nazis just spread it. And the reason it got to America were German immigrants coming to America who hated the Polish because of the Nazis. So,
and none of them brought over any Jewish jokes? I'm offended.
Well, I'm sure that that was the same thing that happened at the same time. They were both parallel jokes being started. But I feel like the Polish was like just jokes. The things that they said about Jewish people, well, they weren't jokes. It was just straight up anti-Semitism, like just hate. You know, they're like, we don't even like him enough to make a joke. We're just going to just spread hate instead. Whereas the Polish, they were like, we don't care. Maybe they're, stupid. And then we'll tell that in the form of a joke. So
even though I got it right, I'm happy to share.
I would love to hear a joke. Yeah.
Because I basically played joke roulette. I pulled up my notebook as we were talking and I just scrolled. And we're just going to read whatever it is. This is the joke that came up. I'll just read it exactly as I wrote it into the notebook.
Yes.
And this is what I wrote. On December 28th, 2021. Fun fact, the phrase, quote, pee in my mouth, ? Can mean 4 different things depending on which word you emphasize, none of them good. Because you're like, pee in my mouth? Pee in my mouth?
In your mouth, you don't know it's there.
In my mouth? Pee in my mouth? They all mean different things. None of them ideal.
And did you ever run that on stage, do you think?
Oh, sorry. You wanted a joke that didn't work.
No. I'm kidding. So were there ever any like comedy seller
opener
audiences?
At my children's show?
Yes.
Pee in my mouth?
Hey kids, you know how sometimes accidentally never mind. That's pretty fantastic. Here's mine. I said this on stage last week. I said, I grew up near Springfield, Ohio, where all this national news is happening. But when I grew up around that area, if you wanted to eat cats and dogs, you had to go to the Ponderosa Steakhouse. And I ran that joke, and it fell flat. The audience I was performing for was a room full of about 800 people of the businesses of Springfield, Ohio.
Yikes.
Yeah, but it was one of those things where I decided I was going to take the risk. You can't, as an outsider, you can't come in and not mention it.
Wait, the Ponderosa.
Ponderosa is like a buffet style steakhouse, kind of like a Golden Corral.
Do they have a reputation for having bad meat?
Yeah, just a reputation for just really bad quality. There's only 17 left in the country. It's just not a great.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it could have been the wrong restaurant choice. I feel like the people there would knew, and I searched around for a few different restaurants that everyone would know, and one that was out of business because this was a business awards dinner that I was emceeing. So I decided Ponderosa, and I decided I was going to I had to say it. So I started out the show saying, I don't know if you know this, but this city is famous. And
you opened with this?
Yeah, this was my opening. Yeah, you had to. I had to. This was the elephant in the room, like the outsider coming into Springfield, Ohio, after a month of the entire world knowing who they are. You have to talk about
metaphor. You did metaphorically. You brought a bear to a fight.
I did, and slept with the bear
trenches.
In front of 800 people. Yeah, and the front few tables were all of the people in Springfield who had been receiving death threats.
Right. They're like, this is not.
Yeah,
exactly.
It was, but the people who liked it really liked it. They laughed a lot, but it was
both of those people were very happy.
It was a very polarizing decision on my part. Very polarizing. We're at 2 for 4, I think, Harrison. I think you've gotten 2 right. You got the first one right about the bear, and then you got the other one right about the anti-Polish sentiment, right? So
yeah, but question 2, the jury's out because there might be a bigger statue, and question 3 is based on an estimate. So technically, from my perspective, 4 out of 4.
So what we're saying is you've gotten 2 out of 4. I don't care.
All right.
None of these questions matter. This one is for all the marbles. If you get it right, you're welcome back on the podcast anytime. If you get it wrong, you're banned for life.
Oh, no.
It's about everything right here. And it's a hard question this week. This is a hard
Oh,
question.
shit.
I wrote the question, and then I tried to think about what I would have said, and I have no idea. So here's your question. If there was going to be a statue of you put up after your life, the Harrison Greenbaum statue, what would it be commemorating?
Oh, that is a really good question.
It's a hard one, right?
Yeah.
And it's not one you can bring up, because then it's like, just one day when there's a statue after me, it's going to be about,
I mean, I would hope that it's sort of a gag that when you touch it, something happens. The correct answer is anything that would be funny. Like if you get closer, you just hear a little voice inside going, "Help! I'm still alive. I'm trapped inside my statue." That would be pretty cool. I guess I'd be performing. Well, who knows? I mean, I always said that my goal in my career is the same thing that Carlin. I'm also going to paraphrase Carlin. Poorly, but let's see if I get it right. He said something about the goal in his career was to be written. When you write a book about stand-up comedy, you have to include him, the history of stand-up.
Oh.
That's your goal. And I always felt like that with my career in comedy and magic. You want to leave enough of a mark that if they write a book on the history of stand-up or the history of magic, that they have to include you, even if it's a footnote. So if they have to build a statue of me, my God, that would be that's pretty good. I think it's less important of what I'm doing in the statue than where the statue is located.
I was thinking about that. Like, where is the statue?
It's got to be in a
located?
fun place.
Yeah, or is it in a magic mecca? Like, is it going to end up in Colon, Michigan? Because that's Colon, Michigan is inexplicably this magic mecca of Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, the graveyard has so many cool.
Yeah.
There's so many cool like tributes and tombstones and stuff in that cemetery. It's unbelievable.
Or is it in New York? Is it in Las Vegas? Where's the statue?
I'm a New Yorker through and through, so I think New York would probably be where I'd want it.
There you go.
That the place has my heart. So yes, if you're listening now in the future, build my statue in New York City.
I'd never heard that quote from Carlin. That's really interesting. And by the way, that is a correct answer. So you are welcome back on the podcast.
All right.
Oh my God, did I just say that? Do I have to cut that out of the podcast?
Oh boy, I'm honored to be on the podcast where you got canceled.
I'm cutting this entire section out.
Let's build a statue to this moment.
Oh my God. Yeah, so maybe it's me like doing magic and around me there's signs of the apocalypse. So it looks like I'm just still doing what I've been doing for the last 21 years, but the rest of the world went on without me, which is basically how I feel every day of my life anyway.
You know what's great? Whoever's listening, just know that Michael has cut out stuff from this podcast. So imagine what didn't make it.
Yeah. Just
based on what you are listening to now.
The people on Patreon get the whole horrible, cancelable video, and that's it. Just the people on Patreon. There's never been a better pitch for Patreon than listening to the unedited version of this interview.
I can't believe what Michael did.
Unbelievable. Hey, go check out Harrison Greenbaum. He's in New York performing all the time. Where can people find you online, Harrison?
You can find me at Harrison Comedy on Instagram, TikTok, X, Twitter, whatever we're calling it nowadays. You can also find me on youtube.com/Harrison Greenbaum and my website, of course, harrisongreenbaum.com. I have an off-Broadway comedy and magic show. You go to whatjusthappenedShow.com for information about that. It's playing in New York City. Our next show is in November on the 9th as part of the New York Comedy Festival. So I'm pretty pumped about that. And just follow me around at harrisongreenbaum.com.
Yeah, absolutely. And, my wife's not a big stand-up comedy fan. Like, she likes it, but she doesn't purposely seek it out. And she asked who was going to be on the show today, and I showed her some of your clips on TikTok, and she was laughing really hard. So,
yes.
She is, it's Allison approved. Great stuff. Really, really funny. Thank you so much for taking some time for me today.
My pleasure. Thanks so much, man.
That's all for this week. Thanks so much to Harrison Greenbaum for being my guest, and thanks to you for listening. Here's the voice of a tiny British bear.
Thank you for listening to The Internet Says It's True. To listen to episodes ad-free and a week early, support us on Patreon. You can do that at patreon.com/Michael Kent. If you learned something just now that you didn't already know, go to the Apple Podcast app and leave us a review with 5 stars and a few words. That helps us a ton, because that's how the algorithm works. I don't know what an algorithm is, but just do it! See you next week for a brand new episode of The Internet Says It's True!
The Internet Says It's True would like to thank the Patreon subscribers whose monthly contributions help to make this show possible. Sean Brown, Joshua Endress, Dallas Ray, Bryce Swanson, Eugene Anderson, Jim and Joanne Martin, Mitch and Andrew Joseph Kemplin, and the show's official Emperor, Kick Track. The show is written and produced by me, Michael Kent. The theme song is by Finite Music Forge, and all audio clips in this episode are used for education and commentary and used under Fair Use Title 17 USC Section 107. You can listen to past episodes by searching for The Internet Says It's True wherever you get your podcasts, and you can see bonus content at patreon.com/Michael Kent.